stand for and that we stand for be preserved under the providence of God for the happiness of mankind.
The trouble is caused by unthinking people who carelessly throw away ageless ideals as if they were old and outworn machinery.
But it is the values of individual liberty, equality before the law and the supremacy of people over the state to which we can always with confidence return as a powerful and uniting force.
Australia is not a secular country. It is a free country.
G'day and welcome to the final update from The Good Source today regarding the United States election. This is a very important election happening in America right now. It's happened during the day. It's now nighttime in America. And around lunchtime today, we did nearly a 3-hour live stream with a really great panel full of Australian commentators, as well as some American expert analysts and think tank members to really explain what the issues are. And I encourage you to go back and watch that. This will be a short video. It's not turning out the way we wanted. This map looks fantastic, red everywhere, but you have to remember that that only represents 197 seats in the United States Congress, which is their lower house. Those few speckled blue areas still represent a vast portion of the population in America, and thus 173 representatives in Congress. So Republicans are still ahead, and they've picked up 4. That may not be enough to actually control the Congress and the lower house, which is really what's needed to advance a conservative, libertarian freedom agenda heading up to the next presidential election. Super important that some investigations are done by Congress, such as what happened to the story about Hunter Biden's laptop. Is Joe Biden just incompetent, or is he criminal? There's a whole lot of things that need to be investigated and questions that need to be answered. We talked about that a lot in today's live stream. Right now, the Senate race is not exciting. The gubernatorial races are not exciting for Republicans, and the Congress race is possibly going to go our way or not. We don't really know. We're going to ask John Humphreys to join us now and answer a whole lot of your questions as well as his own thoughts. So if you've got any questions about any particular race you want an update on, pop it into comments right now. Make sure you share this video. We will stick around as long as it takes to answer a few questions. And this ultimately will not be an hour-long broadcast. We want to keep it nice and short and just update from wherever we left it a few hours ago. So John Humphreys, welcome to The Good Source again, and thank you for all your expert time today.
G'day, Dave. Good to be back. And yes, you are right. This story isn't really the one that we were hoping for this morning or going into this election. There was a lot of talk about the idea of a red wave that hasn't transpired. As you mentioned, in a slight red trickle in the House, and it looks like the wave's gone backwards in the Senate, at least for the moment. The Senate still has some races that are too close to call.
Probably fair to call it a polite blush as opposed to a red wave.
I think I heard one person refer to it as a more of a crimson wave rather than a red tsunami. Look, you mentioned before, the Republicans still look like they'll pick up a couple of seats in the House. I think we mentioned during the earlier live stream, they need 5. So the Republicans need to pick up 5 seats in the House to be able to get a bare majority. A bare majority is generally not enough to be comfortable. The polls going in was suggesting they were going to get 20, 25, 30 seats. That was the red wave that was expected. As you can see here, it hasn't been. Well, if you scroll up a little bit, I think it shows that they're currently at +4. And yeah, +4. They need that to be +5 at least. But anything less than +20 isn't really a red wave. So it's better a plus than a minus. But that really isn't what the Republicans were hoping for. There are still more seats to come in. So that's line ball, right? The control of the House in the US looks absolutely line ball at the moment. It could go either way. And so that's a bit closer than we were hoping for. As I was continually saying this morning, it's the Senate race where I was particularly interested. Do you have, is that, oh, you've got the screen there? All right. As you can see here, actually, would you mind sharing my screen? Is that okay? So I can take us around.
Done.
So as you can see here, is that my screen? Yeah.
That's yours.
All right, as you can see here, this is the House, the Republicans up 4. The Senate at the moment, this is showing the Republicans down 1, which, to repeat what we said this morning, going into this election, the Senate was 50-50, which means the Democrats controlled it because they get the extra vote to break the tie. So the Republicans needed to pick up 1. Really, they needed to pick up 2 to make sure they had comfortable control of the Senate. That doesn't look like it's going to happen at the moment. Just going down to this map to show what has happened. You can see this stripy blue one. That means it's been picked up, right? So it's changed hands. Pennsylvania was a Republican Senate spot. The Republican senator, Pat Toomey, retired. So they had 2 new players up. And this was Oz versus Fetterman. Oz, the Republican, versus Fetterman, the Democrat. Fetterman suffered a stroke. He could hardly speak. It seems like he's cognitively impaired. And he looks like he's managed to win that, regardless of those difficulties. So that's a very unfortunate outcome. That puts the Republicans -1, which means
let's not move on from there too quickly. Let's talk about how Fetterman could possibly beat Oz. What was Oz's Dr. Oz's deficits that made him less worthy of a candidate than the guy with other deficits?
Well, look, I'm going mostly on the secondhand commentary of American political commentators when I say this, because I wasn't closely following his campaign. But the skinny on Oz is that he wasn't a particularly conservative type of conservative. He was pre-selected because he was famous. He was a famous TV doctor. And he had the backing of Trump because they agreed on the outcome of the last election, and they were both famous TV stars. But he doesn't particularly have many conservative bona fides. The conservatives in the party were skeptical of him from the start. He was a weak campaigner. And the party rallied to him at the end because they really wanted to win. But a lot of people were disappointed. One of the takeaways coming out of the American punditry after this election is the quality of candidates really does matter. Right? So DeSantis, a very good candidate for the governor in Florida, ended up winning by something like 19 points, like a massive victory for the Republican governor.
So it's fair to say Victoria's Liberal leader, Matthew Guy, even he couldn't have beat Fetterman.
A lot of people could have beaten Fetterman. A better candidate. It's the Republican candidates for Pennsylvania and Georgia, 2 seats that they now look like they should have won and they might lose. Are widely considered to have been 2 of the lowest quality Republican candidates that have been picked. They were both handpicked by Trump. They both came from outside of politics. They both had star TV value, but not much conservative bona fides or understanding of politics. And they
the lesson I'm trying to extrapolate for global politics is if you want to be conservative, you have to be an authentic, muscular conservative, not a wilting apologetic. Feminists, woketivists like Matthew Guy and so many other moderates that the Liberal Party in Australia serves up, which really are better off on the left and have little in common with the right.
This is one of the complaints about Oz is that he's a bit more socially progressive than normally makes sense in a conservative party. But look, your point is right. DeSantis, a massive victory as a muscular conservative. Other, solid conservatives, maybe not quite as flamboyant as DeSantis, but the Georgia governor, Kemp, the Texas governor, Abbott, they both had strong victories as sort of out and proud conservative campaigners. So there were some good victories for proper conservatives, but some of these dodgy candidate picks for the Republicans seems like it's really hurt them. In terms of how Fetterman could win, I mean, he was basically running from his basement, unable to speak English for the last couple of months. It is quite remarkable, but I think the thing to note there, and it does make some sense, if you were a Democrat and you just fiercely hated the Republican outcome, you would vote for anyone with a D after your name. And I think it was mentioned by Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire, their live stream, that if the roles were reversed and you were running, functionally a brain-dead Republican who was at least going to vote the right way versus a very articulate Democrat who believed in everything you disagreed in, you could imagine a lot of people pulling the trigger for the pulling the lever, I should say, for the candidate that believed in their principles. So I think it's just another example of the division that's going on in America, where the two sides don't think that the other side are real people.
Chris Hewitt wants to know how Kari Lake is going. Give us an update on her for 2 minutes.
Yeah, so it's too early to call this one. She's down, as you can see that you've just put up the results at the moment. This is, of course, the governor race in Arizona, not the Senate race. But the Republicans look like they're doing badly for both of those races. This is probably too early to call because not enough of the numbers have come in. As people would have, if you saw the live stream, you would have seen the early numbers nearly always favor the Democrats because the early numbers come from the big cities, and the big cities vote Democrat, and the smaller towns and the regional areas vote Republican. So you normally expect to see the Democrats jump off to a lead, and then you expect to see the Republicans catch up. We've seen that elsewhere. So J.D. Vance won in Ohio. He started behind. He caught up. And there was a few others. I think same with Kemp in Georgia. So Kari Lake is behind, dangerously behind at this point. It's worrying for supporters of Kari Lake. But don't rule that one out yet. That's still, I would say, a bit too early to call. I would say, though, that the Republican Senate candidate running in Arizona, he's running a further 4 or 5 points behind Kari Lake. So as you can see here, Kari Lake currently running, I can't see that anymore, but Kari Lake's currently running, I think, 8 points. Is it 11 points? 11 points behind Katie Hobbs. That is difficult. That is difficult, but let's not rule it out yet. But 11 points behind, and then the Republican Senate candidate is running a further, I think, 4 or 5 points behind Kari Lake, which makes it very hard to see the Republicans. This is Blake Masters here, running 15 points behind his Democratic rival, Mark Kelly, former astronaut. So look, we hope Kerry gets over the line for the governorship. In the Senate race, remember we said before it was 50-50. It looks like the Republicans have lost Pennsylvania, so they're -1. They now need to make up seats somewhere. Arizona was one of the ones we were hoping for. So if you scroll down just a little bit on that map, so yeah, one of these gray, I can't point to it, but the gray one at the bottom left, if that makes sense. No, that's not contested, darker gray, that one. So that's Arizona. So that's one of the ones still in play, you can see here. So that hasn't been called, but it's looking very hard for that to be picked up now with Blake Masters running 14, 15 points behind. The other ones, the other dark gray ones are the ones in play. The Republicans are going to have to pick up. Actually, if you could just flick back to my shared screen so that I can point to them as we go. So Alaska will go Republican. So you can paint that red, even though it's not red here. Wisconsin will probably go Republican. That gets them up to 49, right? If they pick up Wisconsin and Alaska.
Those blue islands down the bottom, is that Guam? Has that gone back to Democrats?
No, that's Hawaii. Guam doesn't actually get a senator.
Okay.
So Hawaii is solid blue. We knew that before coming in. Alaska's solid red. We knew that. They just haven't called it because they haven't got enough votes yet.
Right.
So give Alaska to the Republicans. That takes it from 47 to 48. Wisconsin is very close at the moment, right? So there's a chance the Republicans could lose too. But the Republican, Ron Johnson, is winning there. I'd expect him to hold on. That gets them to 49. That's not enough. They need 51. And you see then the only ones left are Nevada, where the Democrat is in front. And there's not enough to call yet, so it's still possible. And Georgia is line ball. But note that the Republicans need both of those. So just going down to the numbers here, Arizona, you can see here, Kelly over Masters. There's 15 points in it. They haven't called it yet, not enough votes, but that's a big deficit. Georgia is 49 versus 49. That is really close there. So Warnock is the Democrat candidate, 49.1. Walker, the Republican, 48.8. What's going to happen there is it's going to go to a runoff because neither of them got 50%. So there's going to be another election in a couple of weeks' time to determine that seat. And this is the other one the Republicans need. And as you can see, Laxalt is currently trailing. Now, don't rule that one out. Laxalt ran a great campaign. He's considered to be Nevada leans blue, but Laxalt was considered to be a very serious chance of flipping Nevada. So that the best case scenario, what the Republicans are hoping for now is that Laxalt can catch up that deficit and flip Nevada to be a Republican state for the Senate. And then Georgia would go to a runoff. And at that point, whoever wins that runoff in a couple of weeks' time, they will control the Senate. So it's still, the Republicans still could take the Senate, but it's really got quite a tight race. Losing Pennsylvania means they need to win 2, and Nevada and Georgia are basically the only 2 left, and they're trailing in both. But it is doable. So you can see there, that's the Senate behind, but doable. The House, totally line ball. Line ball is better than being behind, and it's still anyone's race, but this is certainly not the red wave that was being predicted going into this election.
No red wave, but let's have a look at some of the seats that I'm personally interested in. Good news, Ron DeSantis, as we said before, a muscular conservative. The message of the day is if you're half-hearted, limp-wristed, and just totally effeminate about your politics, then you might as well vote for the left. You actually have to believe and have some conviction and call the lying harlot media out for what they are, a bunch of fake news harlots. And what we actually want to see is people like Ron DeSantis being rewarded with a massive swing and increase in their representation. Floridians saying, yep, he votes for me. We also see in Georgia what you were saying, John, that this might be going to a runoff vote. We might not get a clear majority here, which means Georgians will have to go back to the polls. But Stacey Abrams is the one who claimed that she actually won and was defrauded. She was an election denier, if the language is to be consistently applied, at the last election and for governor in Georgia. And she's famous for being the non-governor, the failed governor. So we really hope that she doesn't win that one. I think good news as well.
Can I just interrupt you there on that one, just briefly? Sorry, Brian Kemp has over 50%, so he's already been declared the elected governor for Georgia. The one where they're below 50% is the Senate race, but Brian Kemp has already won that governor race. Stacey Abrams did that.
Maybe Stacey Abrams will believe the results again, or maybe she will question the results again, or maybe she'll believe them when she's second time defeated. It seems to be a thing for Democrat women. They need to lose twice before they stop trying. In the Texas governor results, we have Beto O'Rourke, the Secretary for Transport in this current administration. And he
sorry to pick you up again, Dave, but the Secretary for Transport is Pete Buttigieg. I know they seem like the same person.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. That is true. I'm getting those two confused. Thanks for picking me up on that. But anyway, Beto O'Rourke, a horrible Democrat, incredibly pro-abortion, had the backing of T.D. Jakes, a famous black evangelical preacher, which was very disappointing news for the American church that preacher thought Beto O'Rourke was the better candidate in Texas. Interestingly, this was another race in New York for governor. The Democrat candidate, Kathy Hochul, has won it, but there were a lot of hopes for Lee Zeldin to win it, which was remarkable that he was even considered a chance. John, why? What leads the Republicans to have a chance for the governorship of New York?
Oh, in a word, crime. But no, this result actually tracks pretty well with the opinion polls. What we saw, though, is that the Democrats had a giant lead in New York, as always. And then in the last couple of weeks, there was a significant shift in the polls, a significant tightening. As you can see here, she's winning by less than 6%, which normally the Democrats would win by well over 10%. So Lee Zeldin ran a good campaign. In the end, not enough to tighten the race, enough to flip it. But that's a lot of these results are actually quite consistent with the most recent polls. So that's maybe shows the polling's getting better. But yeah, in a word, crime. New York's crime over the last 3 years compared to it was over the last couple of decades on a downward trend. Over the last couple of years, back on an upward trend, and it's worrying the voters. People are concerned about it. And Kathy Hochul famously in the debate said, she couldn't understand why Lee Zeldin was so hung up on this crime issue. Well, that's because the voters of New York are very hung up on the fact that they don't want to get beaten up or stabbed in the subways. So that did not work well for her, but she got over the line. So it's unfortunate for Lee, unfortunate for New York.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe they'll learn next time. Another race that I've been interested in because I think we all remember and love President Trump's one of his press secretaries, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, a strong, articulate conservative. And she has just absolutely smashed the Democrat challenger in the race in Arkansas to be the governor there. I think somebody said on the live stream earlier today that she's the first female governor for Arkansas. So congratulations to Sarah Huckabee Sanders there. Any comments on that, John?
Well, it was Arkansas is a pretty Republican state, so we could probably have seen this one coming. But she was a fun player on the political stage, so it'll be nice to have her back on the political stage.
Yeah, definitely. She'll be a good voice. Hopefully, she's as muscular as DeSantis is. Melissa Corriston says, "Is this still blowback over Trump?" Your thoughts on that?
It's a very good question. I don't think it is quite that black and white. I think what's happened is there seems to be a mentality that either Trump screws everything up or Trump gets everything right. It seems from this election that Trump has helped support some really good candidates and some duds. So we're seeing quite mixed results, really depending on whether he backs a proper muscular conservative, like an outspoken fighter like Kerry Lake. And that's, well, she may not get up, but J.D. Vance is another sort of muscular, outspoken conservative, and he did get up into the Senate in Ohio. But in some other places, Trump's judgment may not have paid off for the party. And in places like Pennsylvania and in Georgia, that's particularly going to hurt, because if you flip those two, Republicans get the Senate. So it shows the importance of candidate quality, right? It really shows that. So it's not as easy as just saying that Trump is helping or hurting. I think he's helping in some places, hurting in others. And the trick is going to be trying to nuance that, keeping the benefits and decreasing the weaknesses. I don't know how to do that, but that's the lesson.
Well, I guess we have to wait and see. One of the things that's being theorized, if not confidently asserted, is that he will announce his candidacy for the next run at president within a week or two. He said he's got a big announcement coming, and most pundits are saying that's what it will be. Final thoughts from you, John, before we wrap up.
Well, I'll just put myself on the record and throw out a prediction here. I think he's hinting at an announcement, and then he won't make it. I think he may try that game a couple of times. Whenever he hints at an announcement, it ensures that all of the national media pays attention. He gets to give a political speech that everyone covers, and then he does everything but announce, and then he can do it again in a week's time and do it again in a month's time. Once he announces, he can no longer raise money in the same way. So this is the reason a lot of people hold off their announcements. Even if everyone knows they're going to run, they hold off officially announcing because it changes the fundraising rules. So he has an incentive not to announce. So everyone is saying the same as you're saying. I'll probably be wrong, but just in case I'm right, I'm putting it on the record.
Hey, I'm just reporting what the others are saying. I haven't thought about it at all. I'd be surprised. I was surprised when they told me this morning, "Oh, he'll definitely announce in a week." I'm like, "Oh, really? Huh, there we go. News to me." So yeah, not my call. I have no horse in this race. But
there are also
yours sounds reasoned.
Another one of the stories coming out of this election has been some of the mishaps that seems to have happened with the voting machines in Arizona. I've seen a lot of reports saying a lot of different things, some of it contradicting itself. I'm not sure. It's definitely something we need to find out more about. So it's too early for me to know. But yeah, so Chris is asking a good question here. I don't have the answer. Honestly, I don't think anyone does yet. But there are too many anomalies to not have people ask questions, and you are not an election denier or you're not a fringe conspiracy theorist by simply asking questions. It's good to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly right. And Tucker Carlson was reporting what is clearly seen and evidenced in videos from voting today, and then lying harlot media jumps on and says there was no basis to it or substance to it at all. That it was printing machines and not voting machines. They just make something up. So duck and cover, sweep it under the rug and obfuscate and call everybody a denier as if they're equivalent or parallel somehow to Holocaust deniers if they suggest there might have been better integrity in the election, which isn't a preposterous statement to make. Asking the questions is absolutely necessary, like you said, John. All right. Is there anything else? So I think we can wrap it up right now.
Yes, I think so. I'll just the takeaways, the wrap up is what I said before. It's not the red wave. It's a slight shift to the Republicans in the House. It's going both ways in the Senate. Both the House and the Senate are line ball. They're 50-50. We're not going to know for a while. So no one can really pop the champagne or celebrate in either direction. The only thing we really know for sure is that we did not have the thumping Republican victory that was being predicted. It's been a very close election.
Indeed. Thank you very much, sir. And we will see you all at the next update, next video on The Good Source. Bye-bye.
Today, we need a special kind of courage. Not the kind needed in battle, but a kind which makes us stand up for everything that we know is right, everything that is true and honest. We need the kind of courage that can withstand the subtle corruption of the cynics, so that we can show the world that we are not afraid of the future.